Father decided it was essential to go to Szigeti in Paris. But I was very sad to be leaving my mother and sister. Father arrived at Szigeti's door, only to hear the violinist say that he had been offered a tour of the United States. The first Wieniawski International Violin Competition was soon to be held in Warsaw. Father was convinced that if I did well in it, I would be launched on a great career. He took me to Karl Flesch, one of the most famous violin teachers in Europe at the time, so that I could be prepared for the competition. It was the beginning of an association with Professor Flesch that lasted for several years. After working with Karl Flesch in 1935, I returned to Poland for the competition. In 1986, I returned again to Poland for the same competition, this time as a member of the jury. Warsaw had been destroyed, and so, after the war, the competition was moved to the city of Poznań, where it takes place every 5 years. This is the oldest and still one of the most important violin competitions in the world. Some of the finest young talent of today is here taking part. I can hardly believe that it is so many years since I was one of them. Jeanette Neveu, who was about 17 at the time, took first prize. David Oistrakh, the leading Soviet violinist of his time, took second. He was already in his 20s. I was awarded the first prize for a Polish competitor. The excitement was almost too much to absorb. We were invited to the palace of the President of the Polish Republic and presented to him. This palace was completely destroyed in the war. It was marvelously rebuilt, and it was in this room of the original palace that we were received by the President. I find judging difficult. It requires dissecting and analyzing performances, as well as appreciating the overall musicality. I don't like playing God with so much responsibility for someone's future. The mayor of Poznań asked me to play at a special reception at City Hall. He was so charming about it, I felt I couldn't refuse. The Polonaise in D major by Henryk Wieniawski seemed appropriate. After the competition, Father and I went to Baden-Baden in Germany to continue my lessons with Karl Flesch. Here I confronted a serious problem. Often, when playing with a pianist, I would not know when to begin. Karl Flesch was baffled. One day, he called Father and myself for a conference, and he said, I really don't understand it. You play all the concerti, all the caprices by Paganini, everything, and all of a sudden, you don't know when to come in. I was terribly troubled by that, and I said, well, what's going to become of me? Then one day, I was in bed, almost ready to fall asleep, when it hit me like a bolt. I said to myself, my God, maybe there's more to it than what meets the eye. I sat up and I said, Daddy, can you tell me something? Do all these signs and the dots and the commas and everything, does it mean something? Well, at that same instant, Father sat up too and he said, my God, Ida, don't you know? I said, no, what? Well, then of course it means something. Does one by any chance have to count it like arithmetic? Father said, well, of course. Oh my God, I said, well, in that case, I'm saved, because I just have to learn how to count. That's all there is to it. And then I was so relieved, I fell asleep. My mind was at rest. Professor Flesch decided to move from Germany to London and take up residence there in the 1930s. Obviously, that's where my father was going to take me, to London, England. I was very, very excited about studying with Karl Flesch. I liked him. Pupils were very frightened by Karl Flesch because he could be terribly severe sometimes, a great disciplinarian. But with me, he was very playful. He kissed me and he paid me compliments when necessary, but he could also be very strict. And that was as it should have been. My father just brought me to the house of Karl Flesch. So we were there behind the door, and then I heard the most divine piece of music. And I thought to myself, my God, I do identify with that tragic sound very, very much. It just went to the core of my spirit, and I said to myself, my God, I would love to play that. And that was Chausson's poem. I was very, very melancholy when I was a child. And that type of music, that style appealed to my nature very much. I felt that I wanted to play it and express what was inside me, and I felt that I could express it because of the very nature of that work.